the Legislative Affairs Director for the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, Mr. Dave Adams. Dave, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate you joining us. Understand the winter weather's already begun down there in the Richmond area. The legislative season is in full swing. We've got a pretty short session this year, but we are seeing Sunday hunting make some real moves in both chambers this session.
One step closer to Sunday hunting in Virginia, I think, at least on private property, which is a good thing.
Absolutely. So the House bill has passed the House. The Senate bill has passed the Senate. Now they go and they cross over. To my way of thinking, Dave, this would almost mean this is a fait accompli. I mean, you never want to count your chickens before they're hatched, but do you feel pretty good about a bill going to Governor McAuliffe's desk?
I think it's pretty safe bet that we're going to get a bill to the governor, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens when he does get it. I don't expect any shenanigans in either side of the legislature because both of them passed identical bills, so I'm not expecting anything funny happening between now and the end of the session.
All right, well, that's good. What do you mind me asking? I mean, again, I've lived in Virginia for almost a decade now, and this has been a bill that has come up every year. It has been a bill that, it's been a challenge every year. But you look at the votes this time around, and pretty wide margins. Dave, what's changed in the Sunday hunting debate?
I think that we found a good compromise with the private property provision. It was kind of hard to argue against that. We went at it from a property rights issue, and I think that was probably the biggest selling point. Now, there's still a lot of rural legislators that have stayed with the Farm Bureau position on it and voted against the bill. You'll notice legislators in both houses that voted overwhelmingly for it. There are a lot of folks in suburban and urban areas, and that's what drove the votes in both houses. But I think that if we sit down and think about it, and it's only fair that someone who owns a farm, who wants to go out and hunt on Sunday because maybe he's working two jobs, that he's able to go out and hunt on a Sunday afternoon because he may have to work on Saturdays.
No, absolutely. And as you say, I mean, for a state that has had absolutely no Sunday hunting whatsoever, this is a small step forward, but it's a meaningful step forward because it does open this up to a private land during deer season. You can't hunt with dogs, and you can't hunt within, I think, 200 yards of a house of worship. But so that it seems that this would recognize the concerns of non-hunters, while at the same time, again, actually giving hunters something meaningful. This isn't paying lip service to the idea of Sunday hunting.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you don't think of Virginia as being a large outfitter type of state, but there are some hunting outfitters, and they've got private, that is considered private property, and folks who want to come into Virginia that want to hunt can go to those properties now if the bill passes and signed by the governor, and it'll also have an economic impact on Virginia as well.
No, I think it absolutely will have an economic impact. Now, as I said, Virginia's got a pretty short session this year around. How are we doing in terms of timing now that the bills have crossed over? What's the next step, and what should gun owners be paying attention to?
Well, they both have been assigned to the respective agriculture committees, and I don't expect there to be a lot of time before they both come up. We just hit crossover on Tuesday, so we're halfway through. This is a 60-day session, which is a long session, but they'll be taking up the bills within the next week or so, I would imagine, and it's possible it would be the end of the session before they get passed. But I think right now we can look for both bills to come out of both houses and get to the governor's desk.
All right. Has Governor McAuliffe indicated one way or the other where he stands on this bill?
He has not since he took office, but he did tell the Fredericksburg Freelance Star newspaper back during the campaign that he was happy with the status quo. So once the bills have passed and got to his desk, we'll be reaching out to sportsmen across the state to contact the governor and ask him to sign the bill.
All right. Dave, we've been talking a lot about Sunday hunting this session, but are there other bills out there y'all are paying attention to that gun owners in the state of Virginia need to know about and be aware of and be taking action on?
We are paying attention to the lifetime concealed handgun permit, which passed out of the Senate at the last day before crossover, and that will be going over to the House. There was a similar bill in the House that was carried over to the next session, mainly because there were some issues that they were trying to work out, and they just didn't feel they had enough time to do it appropriately before crossover. We do have that Senate bill as a vehicle that we can still work on any remaining problems, and we will try to do that and get that bill passed into the governor's desk. There are no major anti-gun bills that have made it out of the Senate or the House. All of them bills that you would have expected to be introduced, like gun show bills or magazine bills or so-called assault weapon bills. All of those were defeated in both the House and the Senate. So right now we're going to be concentrating a lot of our time on that lifetime concealed carry permit bill.
All right, and it's interesting to note, as you say, that these bills defeated not just in the House but in the Senate as well. We know gun control advocates tried to make a great deal of the election results in Virginia in 2013, but this would indicate that the legislature is still pretty pro-gun.
Well, it is in the House, but, the Senate, they had the majority flip halfway through the first half of the session. All those bad bills were killed while the GOP was still in control of the committee. Since that time, the antis have taken over control of that committee. In fact, there's co-chairman of the Senate Courts of Justice Committee now, both of which are vehemently anti-gun, and they killed 2 out of 3 bills that went before the committee today.
Oh, really? All right, so a changing of the guard there in mid-session.
Yes, and it was not a pleasant changing of the guard either.
All right, well, listen, Dave, appreciate you coming on the program, sir, and keeping us informed of the good and the bad down there in Richmond, Virginia.
All right, thanks a lot, Cam.